As two white women with graduate school degrees, we are already feeling our privilege in this space. As two unordained queer women who are sandwiched in this conversation between two ordained straight people, we are already feeling oppressed in this space. In working with our multiple identities, we are called to name our oppressors while recognizing that it was our ancestors and our namesakes who colonized and created unhealthy ideas of what it means to be a child of God, what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be loved.
Our stories are public and not uncommon in a denomination that has publicly excluded LGBTQ people for more than 40 years. I am what you call a cradle Methodist. In high school, I had my first call to ministry. What followed was 10 years of professional ministry, including campus ministry, youth ministry, and mission work with the General Board of Global Ministries. I am seminary educated and not ordained. When people ask why I am not a pastor today, I must explain that I am another leader lost to the oppressive policies of the United Methodist Church against people who are LGBTQ. For these reasons, among many, I know I must speak up and work for change in my denomination.
In my work as a new United Methodist, I knew that I could only make significant change from the inside. I joined the UMC in 2012 and immediately became a member, along with Laura, of Love Prevails. Our work challenges the status quo. It agitates people to a space of questioning and uncomfortability and makes them look us in the eyes and tell us that we are not deserving to hold power within our own church. We let ourselves be told over and over that we are not deserving. And instead of breaking our own hearts open over and over to share our hurt, we recognize that in this church fight, something needs to change. We are not a group of lawyers, and this is not a court. It is not our job to persuade you that we are children of God, that we are Christians, that we are loved. Our friend Jesus did that for you. Rather, we'd like to share this poem written prior to General Conference 2008 by ILIF alum and current affiliate faculty for Justice and Peace Studies, Reverend Dr. Julie Todd, titled Power and Persuasion, and why we as members of Love Prevails commit to our work of disruption at General Conference.
I've been giving a lot of thought lately to the notion of moral persuasion. The idea that we in this case being primarily well-meaning, privileged white people. The idea that we have and organize ourselves around, that people can be persuaded.
We think people will be morally persuaded when our cause is righteous enough, our logic is rational enough, our argument is strong enough, our actions consistent enough, our tone kind enough, our appeal passionate enough, and so on.
We fundamentally believe people will be morally persuaded to agree with us and act in accordance. These are two different steps. And even if we persuade people to agree, this does not equal their willingness to act in accord.
From what I can tell, this persuasive strategy has rarely persuaded people. At least not on slavery, not on women's suffrage, not on war, not on nuclear arms, not on the environment, not on civil rights, not so far on gay rights. I mean, in 2004, we could not even morally persuade General Conference to state that we disagree.
When people ultimately decide to change their positions on such matters, it is rarely because they have been morally persuaded, but for other reasons, primarily economic, sometimes to save face, evidence that convinces, or for other political purposes, especially when to make compromise means to avoid meeting more radical demands.
Please persuade me. Give me an example to persuade me that I am wrong. And I'm not talking about individual instances where someone changed their mind about something, where institutions have changed under the influence of moral persuasion.
Moral persuasion. Why do we keep trying this tactic? I believe the reason mostly relates to our being mostly well-meaning white people. Well-meaning people believe that hearts change through moral suasion. Well-meaning people do not want to examine the power that holds oppression in place, the material and emotional advantages that moral suasion does not sway.
Examining power means we are going to have to talk about what kind of action, not talk, action, dislodges power. And that's too scary, too risky for most well-meaning Christians. Challenges our assumptions about what works and what doesn't work, like righteousness, rationality, strength, consistency, kindness, passion. The conservative right gets this. What do they do to persuade? Power, money, threats? For good reason we don't want to play this game, but what game are we playing?
One of the reasons we think these things work gets at being primarily white people, the well-meaning kind, whose privilege in other arenas when our whiteness, Christianity, social class, and not queerness gets to define how these things work. We often do secure the changes or successes we seek, and we think we get these things because we are righteous, rational, strong, consistent, kind, passionate. When in fact, our success depends on the power we have because we are white, Christian, upper-classed, but we attribute our success to these other attributes and not to privilege and power.
But you say, I have seen hearts and minds change, and thank God, so have I, but that is not the same thing. That is individualism. That I can convince you that I am morally right has very little to do with changing the system to reflect that position. White people don't get the things that they want because they are morally right. White people get what they want because they have power and privilege and do what it takes to protect and keep it.
Persuasion and power, as a movement, we gotta think about these things some more.